Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon with me as always. Why did that sound so like freaking mechanical? To the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Like, no.
Maybe just because you've heard it so much.
Ugh. Like, I don't want to be mechanical. This is a fantasy football podcast. Some people take it so seriously, and they're like posting stuff, and it's like, wow, guys. I know you're gambling money, but we're talking about fantasy football here. I'm trying to win you some leagues.
Right. We're not talking about economic failures. We're talking about face football.
Yeah, I feel like people get they always have to have something to be triggered about. So it's like they leave watching the news and like politics to come talk about sports, and then they make it like even like more dramatic.
Right, it's not
like what. But anyway, welcome back to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. This week, we are going to talk about the most consistent running backs from the 2021 season. We've said this before. We'll say it again. Just take the percentages in hand. They're pretty consistent throughout all formats. So, yeah, just take it with a grain of salt in terms of the information that we have. But we're going to talk about the most consistent running backs from the season, the guys who stood out in terms of that, and if they're going to continue it into 2020. Before we do that, check out our website, fantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. If you're listening on a podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcast platforms, please be sure to leave a review, share this podcast with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, like, and then comment down below any questions you might have or any thoughts you might have on these consistent running backs. So there you go. How you doing, Rick?
I'm doing good.
Rick kindly showed me in between recording these podcasts how to access the fantasy football calculator ADP.
Oh yeah, so we can check the ADP. I can't even sort the list here by grade and quality. I don't know if you want to do that.
Oh, all right, I got you. I'm still staring at the wrong document.
Yeah, you gotta go to running backs, boss, because that's what we're talking about.
I'm in the wrong document. Here you go.
Your favorite position.
There you go. Hold on a second. Why did it just... What are you doing, guy?
See, that's what I'm saying. That's what I was asking about. Oh, there you go.
Hold on a second. I think I just broke it.
Oh, you just had it. What did you do?
What is... It didn't... Hold on a second. It didn't change the numbers. It didn't change the columns. We are broken here at the Fantasy Champions. Hold on. I'll fix it.
Beforehand. Okay.
No.
In the meantime,
how you doing, Rick? Tell me how you're doing.
I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right.
That sounded miserable. That sounded freaking miserable.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the best time of the year for me.
For me,
the NFL draft though, I've been very slowly trying to scout some players, and we already have on Twitter people talking about this is a fantastic draft for offensive players, and don't listen to it.
Yeah.
And the hype is already,
it's already
going through the roof.
Already through the roof.
Yep. The top running back is now an elite running back prospect, and it's like, okay.
Fantasy Dynasty Twitter. They always got to have something. Here's my
great wide receivers. Not just good, great.
Here's my thoughts on this class. On my very short analysis. I think people get excited for the NFL draft, and this happened literally last year, and we had probably talent-wise a generational class.
Yes.
A lot of talent, and a lot of these guys like Jamar Chase, obviously really good this year. Jalen Waddle was really good. Smith, I think, is going to end up being really good. And it's literally only his first year.
Smith was honestly decent.
Micah Parsons, defensive side of the ball, won Defensive Player of the Year, and I believe he won Defensive Player of the Year and Rookie of the Year. Was an All-Pro. Ridiculous class of rookies this year. This upcoming season, 2022's NFL draft, as far as the offensive side of the ball is concerned, there has been nobody that impresses me. There's nobody that stands out to me so far that I'm like standing on the table for. And I remember last year, we were all talking about the quarterbacks being the best we've ever seen from any class ever. And they all came in this year and kind of sucked. So we got to come down to earth on some of these rookies, guys, because not everyone is going to be Jamar Chase. Not everyone is going to come into this year and be a Justin Herbert, right?
Right. Like, that's what people don't understand.
And there are some seasons
side note, though,
where that's not going to be the case. Running backs, there's always one or two guys that end up being in the top 10 that were rookies. But as far as the other positions, like, we just got to calm our pits.
Was that a play on Kyle Pitts?
Yeah, dude.
Who was another rookie? There was a ton of rookies this year. Side note, I was just gonna say TJ Watt won Defensive Player of the Year. It wasn't Micah Parsons.
All right.
But he was nominated at least. The rookie class is definitely getting overhyped. Like, let's remember, like you said, last year was a generational class.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no receiver that is in the Jamar Chase category. To me, the top receiver would probably be ranked in like the Rashad Bateman category of last year, where he's like the third or fourth guy on a lot of people's boards. So there are obviously good players. There's going to be receivers going in the first round. I don't know if there's going to be – I don't think there's a running back, though, this year in the first round. The top quarterback is, who knows, probably Malik Willis for fantasy purposes because he's a runner.
Right.
But
frick.
Yeah, I mean, even him, like, I don't know. I saw something the other day where, again, Dynasty Twitter said they would, if Malik Willis gets drafted high enough in the first round, like top 15, that he would be ranked ahead of Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance.
Oh my God, guys.
And
holy shit.
Who else was there was another guy. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Are you freaking kidding me?
He should be below all those guys. And
yeah, 100%.
I think Malik Willis is probably my QB1 for fantasy in this draft, but he's not great, and there's a real chance that he could be out of the league in 6 years. Like, it's a real possibility. So
yeah,
this draft has good players. Like, I think people get it.
I think it's like when you in fantasy football, when you get closer and closer to the draft, you know, you get excited. You're like fired up, and then that kind of affects some of your decision making because there are guys that you love. Me the last 2 years of Miles Sanders and Antonio Gibson, and maybe they don't turn out the way that you want them to because you are thinking with your heart and not with your analytics or your film watching. And I think a lot of people look at these players and they're like, "Oh my God, this guy's incredible! This guy's amazing." This happened last year too. I remember watching film for, like, I love John Mechie. John Mechie's awesome. But is he going to be like a highly successful, like, should that influence my dynasty takes? Because I love John Mechie. Goes to the Patriots, I'll be like, wide receiver 1 overall. Like, no, stop.
Yeah, in the third round.
5th round, 4th round, wide receiver. No thanks.
Right.
If you love a player, you like a player on film, that doesn't mean... The other thing too, and like, not to make this a freaking dynasty show because we got plenty of time to talk about this, but like, I feel like if you get excited about a player prior to the draft, where that person lands is far more important as a rookie than the actual talent or ability that you think they have on tape. And when I say you think they have, there are players like Jamar Chase where it doesn't freaking matter where he went. He's really good. And those are actually talented guys because there's talent evaluators getting paid $500,000, $1 million a year to actually evaluate talent. And you're sitting on your couch at home, no offense, watching YouTube videos of highlights going, "Oh, this guy's awesome." And it's like,
but it was also a landing spot. Like, we knew once Chase went to the Bengals that
he was
going to
get targeted out the wazoo.
Like, we already liked his prospect profile, but once he goes to the Bengals, it changes things. Yes, landing spot matters. Another thing quickly that I noticed about Dynasty people, the hardcore Dynasty people, is I feel like they'll get super excited for rookies, and even before they get drafted and right after they get drafted and stuff. But once they play a year in the league, if they're not like amazing, they give up on them.
It's like Devonta Smith.
Like Trevor Lawrence. There's so many people down on Trevor Lawrence this year.
He went to the Jaguars.
Like, yeah, he had a bad rookie season as a quarterback on the Jaguars. Whoa. So instantly he sucks. Okay. All right.
Let's say
I'll take him.
I'll say this. Go buy Trevor Lawrence, I guess. From idiots. It's all about the here and now with these like I love Dynasty. It's one of my favorite like fantasy platforms or what do you call it? Fantasy not platforms. Platform would be Sleeper.
I guess styles.
Yeah, whatever. But anyway, it's my format. It's my favorite. Yes. It's one of my favorite formats. And I love playing Dynasty, and it's just I feel like, and this happens in redraft too, with players where people just get so high on a guy, and like for example, Kyle Pitts transcended from hype in Dynasty to hype in redraft, because of his draft position in the NFL draft, and that is one of the examples where he just got taken way too high. And it hurt a lot of teams because you're not ever going to get a productive, that was about as productive as you're going to get at the tight end position for a rookie. Mm-hmm. And so it's just, it's like hype is not a way to evaluate. Hype is not a way to look at players. Like if you like a guy, offer the facts, offer the information, and go for that. I was going to say too, Rick, I thought you were going in this direction with your last take. There are some people who will hype things up. Like Bateman truthers. I was a Bateman guy, big Bateman guy, prior to the draft. He got drafted by the Ravens, the last spot I wanted him to go to, and I adjusted my analysis on him. Does that mean I shouldn't draft him in Dynasty? No, I'll go out and draft him and take a shot. But like, based on what I know about the Baltimore Ravens, that's not a great landing spot for Rashad Bateman if you want him to be, a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. Adjust your takes as they go, because I see people on Twitter, they'll go, the Dynasty people will go, oh, I love this player prior to the draft, and then that player gets drafted to a bad landing spot, so then they'll try to twist it to make it like, this guy's going to be good, I'm telling you. They drafted him to do X, Y, and Z, and like they try to come up with a way that this player will end up being good, and it's like, sometimes you're just wrong.
Well, it's like it's okay to adjust.
Yes.
Like it's okay to adjust your rankings. It's okay to be like, okay, this guy's not going to work out here, or this situation just got a lot worse for this guy. Even if you like the player, you can still rank him relatively high, but know that it's not going to be the same if you went to a better landing spot.
Exactly. So
Bateman is a perfect example of that. People last year was still taking him in the first round, and when he was falling in the second round of rookie drafts,
who I missed the name.
You idiots. Rashad Bateman. He was a good example.
Yep.
I remember people were freaking out that he wasn't getting drafted in the first round of rookie drafts. It's like he's a receiver on the Ravens. And I think he actually showed flashes this past year of being a good receiver. I think he has talent. And, we'll see how his career plays out. I think he'll have, decent seasons, but he's not exactly in a high-powered passing offense, that's going to throw the ball 700, 600 times. Like, it's just not going to happen.
And for the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast, I will not apologize for not being clickbaity and tweet random crap like the analyst over at FS1 or even ESPN now. And just some people say crazy stuff.
First overall.
Some people say crazy stuff just to if you're not drafting retweets. And it's
Matt
like
Stafford in the first 2 rounds next year, you're an idiot.
I know.
It's like what?
Like it was we talked about this before, but we follow a guy on Twitter and basically said that in redraft, Travis Kelce should be the 101. This was last year, and obviously that's a really bad take. Like, that's not good fantasy advice. Like, I'm not even just saying, like, I have a difference of opinion.
That sounds like something in, like, your home league, like some random guy, because he's like, I'm taking Kelce.
That's just that's not smart.
It's not,
that's a surefire way to just completely fail at fantasy football. And, like, there's some things that are, like, opinion, and then there are some things that you just don't do. And that was one of the things that you just don't do. And, like, I got heated last year on multiple programs or multiple shows because people were drafting Travis Kelce way too freaking high. And it's just at this point, it's like we're not going to give you like clickbait headlines where we're like, oh, this player's going to go 101. You know what I mean? Like it's not what we're about. We want to provide you a way to win your fantasy championship and cut the crap. So that's really what this last 15 minutes has been about for Dynasty.
Yeah, exactly.
You ready to talk about consistent running backs? I was going to say tight ends.
Yeah.
What did you just say?
So that lasted like half our show. That was like 15 minutes.
I know. So the first guy on the list here for consistency is Jonathan Taylor. He had 14 total. It was enough time for me to figure out my crap for this stupid spreadsheet. It was organizing one column, by the way, if you know anything about spreadsheets, and it wasn't bringing the rest of the columns with it. So anyway, but the first guy on the list that we have had 14 quality or great games on the season and 3 bust games. And I believe some of those bust games started early in the season when they weren't getting him the football. And exactly what I was thinking when I look at the chart. Week 1, he had 17 fantasy points. I believe this is in PPR, by the way.
Yeah, that was
Week 2, he had 6. Week 3, he had 8. And then week 17 or week 18, actually, he had a total of 12.5 fantasy points. So that was the other, or 10 fantasy points in week 16. That's probably the other bust game. But anyway, so he had a fantastic season. He only busted 3 times. He is the running back 1. This is the most consistent guy. He got a lot of targets, a lot of carries. There's not, to me, I don't want to spend an hour on Jonathan Taylor because I'm going to spend a whole offseason telling you to draft him 101.
Right.
0.97 fantasy points per opportunity. He had 1,800 rush yards, 360 receiving yards. He was the reason why, which is interesting because running backs aren't usually the case with this particular situation, but he was one of the reasons why the Indianapolis Colts went on a massive run that put them back into playoff contention. And when they stopped giving him the ball at the end of the season, a little bit, Colts missed the playoffs. So I think Frank Reich is going to look back at the season and be like, we need to get JT the ball. That needs to be our identity. And which I think they're going to do. 53 targets, 332 carries. He's got to be the first guy off the board. And I think he's going to stay consistent going into next year. So those are my thoughts on JT.
There's not too much to say. Yeah, there's not too much to say about JT. He's the RB1. He showed it this year. It was very consistent. It's kind of interesting that those not the first 2, but 2 of the first 3 games were some of his bust games. Mm-hmm. Just like you said, he might get off to a slow start. Anyway, but once they figure out, hey, we have Jonathan Taylor on our team, we should probably give him 20 carries a game.
Yeah.
He instantly became an RB1 pretty much every week.
Right.
And I would say he's probably the clear 101 too. I think I haven't seen much pushback on that, other than people who are saying if McCaffrey's healthy, you got to take him 101. But for the most part, or even the Derek Carr.
If I'm sitting on the board 101, just to let you know what I'm doing, I'm taking Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, I'd say most people are taking it.
Any more thoughts on Jonathan Taylor?
No, I think that's.
So the second guy is Austin Eckler. And interestingly enough, Eckler, I believe, played in one less game.
He did.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to confirm that was correct. But
I believe
anyway,
so. Yeah, he did.
He actually, percentage-wise, was higher than Jonathan Taylor in terms of quality and great games, in terms of consistency. He had 14 quality or great games, 5 great games, 9 quality games, and 2 bust games. And I think the quality and great games you can kind of mix up because of PPR and half PPR formats. So when you look at him, though, he is in that conversation of quality or great, and as high as he is at a clip is because of his pass catching. It's simple as that. Like you look at JT and Jonathan Taylor, and he had 53 targets, which is not a super massive, like high amount of targets. Austin Eckler, on the other hand, had 94 and 70 catches. So like for Austin Eckler, it's more or less the fact that he had more pass catching opportunity. And when you have a guy that's successful on the ground and through the air, we saw this with Christian McCaffrey, the efficiency and the consistency of that player increases. So technically speaking, you could say Austin Eckler was the most consistent running back in fantasy football this year, which is interesting. But I think you got more like punch out of Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, you got bigger games.
You got bigger games out of Jonathan Taylor. So Austin Eckler, very, very consistent. My problem with Eckler is I feel like it's going to be like he's 26, 20. By the time next season starts, he'll be 27, I think. He's getting older, and like I just don't know if I want to take him as high as where he's been getting taken. You know what I mean? Like, I think 5 or 6 off the board.
He's running back, or he's the 1, 2, 3, 4. He's the 5th overall player. PPR.
Yeah. So I definitely am not like super into.
I mean, who would you draft over him? Do you think that's going behind him? Najee right now is 6. So yeah, Najee, that's fair. I'll give you that.
I would probably take Chubb.
Cooper Kupp. You would take Chubb. See, I wouldn't.
Okay, that's fair. McCaffrey, I would. He's a little bit lower.
That's,
I think it cuts off at. I don't know how I feel about Kamara. I want to see what the Saints offseason
would you take. Like. Would you take Mixon or Eckler?
Probably Eckler.
Okay.
See, it's a conglomerate. Mixon's pretty high too.
Yeah, he is.
But
I mean, I'm crazy. I might take Eckler in PPR over Derrick Henry, but.
Oh yeah, 100%. PPR leagues,
That's a me personally thing. I don't think most people would agree with us.
If I have the option of taking some of these other guys, I might. I'll let you know. Maybe I'll change my tune in 3 months.
Would you trade him in Dynasty? Asking for a friend.
Yeah.
Okay. I have him in a league where I'm like a win now team, so I don't want to trade him. But at the same time, I feel like this is the highest value.
Oh, if you're going for a chip, go for it. But the highest his dynasty value is going to be is probably right now.
I am going for a chip though, so that's why I'm like, do I really want to trade a potential top 5 running back?
You'll get a haul, bro. Wait till next year. If he ends up having a good season next year, you can deal him.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
And hopefully he ends up a top 5 running back again. And people will be like, I'm going to get us. I like Austin Eckler. I think he's going to continue this consistency into next year. My only concern with it is that he's just not going to get you an explosive performance. Which I feel like early in the season last year, he had after week 1, he had number 6 overall performance in week 2, number 8 in week 3, number 3 in week 4, number 1 in week 5. And then after that, it was 33, 25, 19, 2, 7, 13, 13, 5, 12, and 1. So when you look at these top performances, he's not Jonathan Taylor got you 8, 9, or 10 of those really great performances, whereas Austin Eckler didn't get you those really great performances at a high high a clip as a guy like Jonathan Taylor would. So the real question is, when you're looking at drafting Austin Eckler next year, are you okay with maybe not getting some huge performances, and maybe not getting those as much as you would with some other guys, but you're happy with the consistency, so you'll take them? That's kind of the question that you have to ask, which I think is totally valid to take Austin Eckler based on his consistency.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair.
Okay, let's move on to the next guy, which is the guy everyone was worried about with the offensive line over there in Pittsburgh, Naja Harris. Efficiency wise,
oh yeah, what was his yards per carry?
Not good. I think it was 3.8, 3.9 is what my guess was. Yeah, hold on, I'm looking at it right now.
300 carries though. 3.9 yards per carry.
Yep. True yards per carry rate, 3.8. That doesn't mean he's bad. That just means his offensive line blows. 17 fantasy points per game. He had 0.75 fantasy points per opportunity. If I was to go look at another running back who happened to be under Mike Tomlin, Le'Veon Bell, he had the same fantasy point per opportunity share. This is what I anticipated Naja Harris to be. Maybe not the most efficient back, but because of the opportunity share that he was going to get, 307 carries, 74 catches, he was going to end up being a top 5 running back or top 6 running back overall. And that's exactly what he ended up being. I don't know what this looks like going into 2022 because the quarterback situation is just, I think, too much to overcome at the running back position if they do suck. So, it'll remind. He kind of reminds me of Saquon back in the day. When I say back in the day, I mean like 4 years ago. Barkley came into the league. He came into the league on not a good football team, and he had a couple of really good years before he ended up getting hurt. So the question is, do the Steelers actually do? Because I think they're a better organization than the Giants are.
Yeah, and they're a better team than the Giants were when.
Yeah.
Saquon was drafted.
So if they can get him some pieces on the offensive line, get a quarterback that can actually throw the ball somewhat sufficiently, I think the Steelers will be fine. I think that Naja Harris will end up being fine as well, and he's a good top 5 pick. But as far as his consistency is concerned, 13 quality and great games, 5 great games, 8 quality games, similar to Naja Harris, where he had more quality games than great games, and then 4 bust games on the season. I think Najee's really good. I think he actually is probably more, I don't know if you want to say this, but I think he's more talented than prime Le'Veon Bell.
I don't know. That's a debate.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people would be like, oh, that's no way.
It's debatable. I don't know. I couldn't tell you my answer.
Either way, yeah.
Look back, but yeah.
I mean, in his rookie season, he had 1,600, yeah, 10 total touchdowns, 1,600 total yards.
It's pretty solid.
So I do like Najee going into next year. I think he is probably going to be consistent as well. The question is how consistent based on the moves they make in the offseason. Yeah,
I mean, quarterback is obviously something to be worried about. People are freaking out saying it's going to be Mason Rudolph because the GM said Mason Rudolph is like 5-4 his career as a starter. So as of today, he said his quote was like, "As of today, with the quarterbacks on our roster, he's our starter." Like, well, yeah, he's obviously giving you hints that they're gonna do something.
We got to go get a quarterback.
It's not gonna be Mason Rudolph.
Yeah.
So Najee, I think, will be hopefully okay with that. The offensive line is still concerned because if their offense isn't super elite and he's not getting a bunch of dump off catches from Ben Roethlisberger, then he's going to need at least a better offensive line to be more efficient on the ground.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they address that either in free agency or the draft. But either way, like, I think Harris, he does have question marks, especially as of today. But I mean, I do like the player. I think he's probably going to be a top 5 pick, maybe 5th, but in the first round. Again, he's going 1-6 right now, so I would probably take him at the 1-6. I think he'll probably be a top 5 running back next year, and he's honestly, compared to Le'Veon Bell, it makes a lot of sense because statistically that's kind of what he is.
Yeah, I think if they make subtle improvements, I think that's why I think he's probably more talented than Le'Veon, because if they make improvements to that team, I think Najee only gets better. So
yeah.
But anyway, 4th guy that we have, Alvin Kamara, and the consistencies of these players kind of stay the same. I don't know, honestly.
This is an interesting one.
I don't know what to do with Alvin Kamara. He was consistent this year, and he's been really good. I would not be surprised if he is not on the Saints next year.
You'd be surprised if he's not?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if he is on the Saints this year.
Okay.
So that's not. I meant to say I think he's going to leave. Is what I meant to say. Anyway, I don't know where. I don't know what that situation looks like, but I feel like the Saints are just going to blow it up, and they should. Either that, or they go get a plug-and-play quarterback and bring Michael Thomas back, stick Alvin Kamara in there. They have a decent offensive line, and try to make a run at things. Like the team's not like everyone thinks they're going to be poverty, but like they really have some pieces there that they could build around if they find a quarterback. So I don't know what's going to happen. I really can't give you a take on Alvin Kamara going into 2022 yet until I see what happens. But as far as this year is concerned, he had 10 total quality and great games, 4 great games, 6 quality games, 3 bust games. So he did pretty good this year in terms of fantasy. I believe he was the RB6 in PPR, RB8. So he had a really good year, and one of the things that I noticed too about this particular player, another guy who has basically 50 receptions on the year.
That's insane.
Yeah, so he can 3 guys in a row with a lot of pass catching work.
Kamara does worry me a lot. Let's say he stays on the Saints.
Okay.
Who's the quarterback for the Saints next year? Hopefully Winston, but there's a real chance that it's not because if he gets anything, the Saints don't have any money, so they can't pay Winston anything really. So
that's their best shot.
A pay cut to stay back. That is their best shot. I'm okay with it if it's Winston, and I think he'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But if they draft a rookie quarterback and trade Michael Thomas and have no weapons on offense, no more Sean Payton.
Yeah.
It definitely worries me. I think he'll still be okay. He's Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
But it definitely worries me. And then let's say he gets traded.
Mm-hmm.
If there's rumors if he gets traded, what situation could he go to that would give him
better
that kind of volume?
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know if there is one.
Like I could see
on the team, but
I could see Buffalo.
I mean that would be a good spot.
Lots of target share in Buffalo. Sure. Not lots of target share, but yeah, I guess you could say that. But he's a pass catching running back. He's never been a guy that's going to rush for 1,200 yards. So I 100% could see them. Miami's looking for a quarterback. Oh, not quarterback. Looking for a running back. There's a lot of teams out there that could get arrested.
Oh,
that's true. Good.
This trade.
I don't know what to do with Alvin Kamara, guys. I'll let you know in 2 months.
Yeah, it's too early for him. As of today, is he a first-round pick?
I think he's gonna be a first-round pick. Even if drafts were today, I think he'd still end up a first-round pick just based on what he's done in the past. Like the Saints were terrible this year. Yeah, terrible, but they weren't good this year.
On offense, they weren't good.
On offense, they weren't good, and Alvin Kamara still finished as a top 8 running back. So, I think that people see that and go, okay, I would draft him. I think he would still finish a first round. I don't know that I would take him. I'd probably pass up on Alvin Kamara unless he fell to me in the 2nd or 3rd round. But obviously that's not happening. So,
great. I mean, we'll see how the offseason plays out. Come back to us in June on this one.
Okay, and we got to get through one final one real quickly, and that is a James Conner, which is highly funny and interesting. 10 quality and great games, same amount as Alvin Kamara. 4 great games, 6 quality games, same amount as Alvin Kamara. He did have 5 bust games because he is James Conner. So looking at James Conner moving into next season, I don't know how I feel at all about James Conner. If they let what's his name walk, show
Edmonds.
him the door. Why can't I remember his stupid name?
Chase Edmonds.
Chase Edmonds. Thanks. Did you say it?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, freaking hey, dude. If they let Chase Edmonds walk, I don't mind James Conner going into next year. I don't know where he's getting drafted, but I would imagine that it's not a top 5 running back, and he had a top 5 running back season this year in PPR. And it's like, what do we do with James Conner? Like, what is like? I have no idea how to approach James Conner as a player because he has a range of outcomes next year that stretch from, like, you look at guys like Naja Harris and like Jonathan Taylor and Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry and some of these guys at the top of the draft, and their outcomes range from, unless they get hurt or something bad happens, their outcomes range from like 1 to 7. Whereas James Conner could be a top 5 running back next year and be really good, or he could drop into the basement and end up being RB 25 or 26. And there's so many ranges of possibilities with James Conner that I just don't know how I can look at this player and be like, okay, I'm confident in either way. He had 39 targets, 37 total receptions last year. Not great in the receptions department. 725 rushing yards, okay. 375 receiving yards, also okay.
It's the touchdowns.
It's the touchdowns. He had 18 total rushing touchdowns. Based on that metric alone, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I'm not a huge fan of James Conner next year. Only if he because, I mean, he did have 200 to 300, hold on. Yeah, 240, around 240 to 250 total opportunities.
That's not bad.
Which is not bad. So if he does get that opportunity again next year, I think opportunity will end up leading him. And he's on a good football team, so that'll lead him into like maybe the top 15 at the running back position. But I think the touchdowns, I don't think he's going to hit 18 rushing touchdowns again. That's not 18 rushing touchdowns, 18 total touchdowns. I don't think he hits that. I think he would be lucky if he hits 12.
Right.
And if he gets a massive drop like that, like say he loses 8 touchdowns this year, that is basically 50 fantasy points on his total right now, which drops him right into the bucket of RB. I think it's like RB 10 or 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's even worse than that. It's like RB 15. So, yeah. I don't know. That's kind of my thoughts on James Conner. Early developing takes.
Yeah, my thoughts on Conner are kind of similar, but here's what it is. If he stays in Arizona, we obviously know he's not getting 18 touchdowns again. That's not happening. He's not going to finish as the running back 5, in my opinion. But if he stays in Arizona, I think he's still going to get a decent amount of touches. He's still going to be the goal line back. And maybe instead of 18 touchdowns, he gets 12. And finishes, as you said, like the RB 15, 16, somewhere in that range. And at the value he's going at, that's actually a very good pick. He's currently he's the RB 24 off boards.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So, if he stays in Arizona, I think that's a great pick. Because he's gonna get underrated because people are just saying how bad James Conner is when realistically he had a good year and he's in the same situation. But now if he goes to a new team, that would worry me. Pretty much any new team would worry me. You would have to go to a team where he's guaranteed workhorse. And even then, he might not get the same amount of touchdowns as he did in Arizona. He won't, obviously, but might not even be close if he goes to a bad team. Let's say that he goes to Miami, right?
Yeah.
And Miami ends up stinking next year. So even though he gets workhorse touches, he only gets like 5 or 6 touchdowns. He's not going to be that great, and he probably won't stay there long, and then he's 27 years old and kind of fizzles out. So it's interesting. I think no matter that's not true. He's got to go to a good spot if he leaves free agency. But I'm actually okay with Conner at his current value, but he's not going to stay there. It's gonna be interesting to see where he is value wise in redraft, because it's going to depend. He's not going to finish as a top 5 running back again. He probably won't even finish as a top 10 running back.
Yeah. But
he'll be an RB2, I think. So
yeah, I agree. I think, like I said, the range of outcomes is so huge with James Conner. Like, I think it starts changing a little bit if he stays in Arizona, and maybe the range of outcomes starts to shrink down on what we expect. But you look at those 18 touchdowns, and you can't help but think that that's going to regress quite significantly. And even if it's just 6 touchdowns that it regresses, and he has like 12 next year with Arizona, even that drops him into like RB10, RB12 range. So, which I still think would outperform where he is. But yeah, so James Conner, I mean, we'll all of these guys, we're going to be talking about all offseason. So I'll give you more takes on what they look like as the season goes along. But anyway, any more thoughts on any of these guys?
No, I think that's about it.
Awesome. Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, Naja Harris, Alvin Kamara, James Conner. Most consistent running backs from 2022? Yes. We have a lot of stuff coming up next week. I think we get into some rookie stuff, so be sure to check it out then. We'll talk to you later, guys.
See you.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.